Welcome, ho ho ho, and a happy new year. This is Political Paradigms, the final episode of 2023. You with Toby. Theo's here as well. Hello, Theo.
Hello there.
And Sonny's here. Sonny, hello.
Well, hello. It's nice. It's nice to be back so soon.
And here we are, a full year ahead, a tumultuous year of British politics in 2024. Whether the election is in May, October, January 2025, please don't kill me if it's January 2025. We'll be here covering it all on this podcast. And throughout the pod today, we're going to take a look and make some predictions about 2024 in British politics, elections or otherwise. The sky's the limit. But I thought we'd start with our takes for what I guess has been an underwhelming year in politics in 2023 compared to sort of the chaos of 2022 and the general election year of 2024. Theo, how would you summarise your thoughts on 2023 in British politics? What was the watchword?
Probably the not in a word, but in an analogy, probably the car of the Rishi Sunak government spluttering down the road toward the mechanic's shop.
And has it reached the mechanic's shop?
I don't think there is a mechanic's
Oh.
shop. I think it's been hallucinating when it's been hallucinating something to turn around their prospects, and everything's pretty much been around that narrative to be very holistic about it.
Well, how many, should we run them off? How many this is the moment Rishi's going to turn it around moments have there been? So there was, when he made the pledges at the beginning of the year, he's going to really
by-elections.
Going to turn it around. Local elections going to turn it around. Do you remember the Northern Ireland Protocol? That was meant to turn it around.
Of course, Tory conference.
Tory conference was going to turn it around. The budget was going to turn it around. Stop the boats was going to turn it around. The Supreme Court ruling against the government was somehow going to turn it around. Am I missing anything? Gaza.
Many more.
Gaza was going to turn it around. Labour's divisions over Gaza were going to turn it around. So, it's kind of every single one of those things hasn't happened yet. Sonny, your thoughts on politics in 2023?
Well, that is a very good question. It has felt. You're right. It has felt slightly underwhelming. So when you look back to 2022, I mean, we had Johnson, who I felt sometimes more like a comedian than a politician. Then we had Truss for her tenure of 20, 30 days. Then we had Sunak, and then we had the Queen passing. Just loads of stuff it felt happened in 2022. You're right, 2023 has felt a bit quieter. Although I would say, I know this is about British politics, I would say it's been one of the busiest years globally, just in geopolitics. But I know we're not talking about that. So yeah, I think honestly one of the biggest things that I can think of now, and probably because it's so recent, was Cameron coming back, and kind of this whole very weird switch with the Tories. And I mean, honestly, I don't know what their stance is now, and it's going to be very confusing. But very interesting to see where they start campaigning when it comes to the time for the election. But yeah, it's been a weird weird year. Sorry, a quieter year compared to what we're used to nowadays, I guess.
I think that's a fair assessment. Quieter, weird. I would say, yeah, underwhelming is probably the word I'd go for. There have been lots of big things that have been hyped up. A lot of big political drama for the Westminster lobby, terrible set of local elections for the Tories, David Cameron coming back, party conferences. But throughout it all, it has been a remarkably stable year in terms of public opinion. The Conservatives started the year about 18 points behind in the polls, fell back to about 21 points behind, clawed it back to about 15 or 16 points behind, fell back to 20 points behind again, and heading into 2024, they've clawed it just back to sort of 16, 17 points behind again. So, remarkable stability in the grand scheme of things. Lots of things that were going to change the game and haven't yet. 2024 may yet bring game changers, who knows? But I thought, as we're looking ahead to 2024 and the year that is virtually certain to be the general election year, I thought we'd do some predictions. And I thought the way we'd do this is we'd ask each other to make predictions. Instead of sticking to our own comfort zones and going, I'm Toby, and this is what I'm going to predict. We'll ask each other to make predictions. So I thought the way we'll do it is two of us will ask the other person, and then another two will ask another person. So who does anyone want to volunteer to be asked questions first?
Yeah.
Did you just volunteer, Theo?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, so me and Sonny will. Sonny, you start. You ask Theo to make a prediction, then I will, and then we'll carry on with this.
Okay. Oh God, actually, it's gonna be terrible. I guess this is quite a broad one, but do you have a certain date where you predict the election to happen? I know that's quite standard, but it's
That's a good question.
a nice, simple one to start with.
I think in light of the recent announcement, probably May the 9th.
You're on team. The budget being announced for early March is making you think.
I am on the team. The budget is being announced for early March, which is making me think of a May 9th election. Let's go. Budget announced early in 9th of March for May 9th election team.
Are you dreaming of an electoral spring, Theo?
I'm dreaming of an electoral spring more than I was dreaming of a white Christmas.
Just
Do you think though? Do you think that if the spring budget is kind of just flops, do you think that they're going to then try and push it back to like October and see if they can recover anything, or do you think they'll just be like, this was our last chance anyway, we just need to go for it now?
I mean, the budget will be pretty terrible, but I think all the current economic recovery will be predictably better at that point. We can probably guess quite accurately where we're going to be at that point, and that definitely went into planning in terms of announcing the budget. There's nothing really that could jump out of the blue except maybe a war or something that could shake the economy enough for that recovery to not at that point by March be at a sufficient level to allow them to then use that little political capital to fight an election and, get the best outcome they can at this point.
Do you know what? My only issue with this is it's twofold. Right. I think they are basically making it possible to call an election after the budget if the polls are narrowing. However, the polls may well not narrow, and people are probably going to feel better off in October than they feel in May. And at the same time, if you're 15 points behind, for example, and you call an election, I think it's very contingent. And I've also seen Labour hyping up May. And I suspect what Labour really want to happen, because Labour keeps saying, we think it's going to be May, we think it's going to be May. I wonder if Labour want to get to May and then go, oh, he's bottled it. Sort of Gordon Brown 2008 style. Do you think there's anything in that, guys?
Do you mean try and make Labour try and be like, oh,
Sunak's gonna raise expectations? It'll be May, and then when it isn't, go, oh look, Sunak's a coward. He didn't call an election. Da 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 da.
Yeah, I mean, I think at this position, I think both political parties have got enough clever people with glasses to know what to say when and what to hype and hype the population up. So I don't think it's
Labour.
I remember everyone
smart
saying
people
that,
with glasses.
The smart people with glasses have migrated to Labour in recent years, I think.
Yeah. The Tory party used to be all the rage for those people in the 2000s.
They were those are also the people that sort of flocked to the Lib Dems during the sort of the Nick Clegg era, weren't they?
The technocrats.
It's a specific genre of British politico, and we've all met them.
It's a genre of spin doctor and campaign manager and policy strategist and speechwriter.
Yeah, exactly, and they're all insufferable.
They are.
Anyway,
and they all like to go out in Soho.
They really do, don't they? All right, my question. We were some of them one week. My question to you, Theo, is: do you think that the Reform Party is going to be a major player in the general election, or is it going to be a damp squib and it will get squeezed? Most of the people saying they'll vote Reform will end up voting for Sunak's Conservatives. How seriously should we take Reform? What would your prediction be?
I don't think there's going to be a big Reform stampede, but they could definitely contest and definitely win some seats. I think plenty of voters are disillusioned enough with the Tory party to certainly not vote for Sunak, and probably malleable enough, especially in light of the whole Stop the Boats fiasco, to consider voting for essentially a far right anti-immigration party when that's such a central issue. I think those two things combined, if I'm correct, you can essentially think of it as Sunak driving out that school of voters like a school of fish out of his territory. They don't. They could go to Nigel Farage if he's convincing enough. He's built up a massive presence. He's going to have record amounts of funding. With all the regulations that were undone by Brexit and that. Okay, I'm not sure about that, but yes, I think he could play a major role, and he's maintained his influence.
I think it's probably contingent in a few ways on how much Farage gets in the arena. If he's in the arena, he's got more of a pull with those voters than Sunak does.
He has a direct channel of communication to the public. His GB News show,
Yeah.
it's the most popular show there. He's maintained a profile, I think, for a reason, not just the money. And who knows, maybe even these scandals, such as this year's scandal about him being debanked, as he alleges, could be a planted event to shore up his popularity.
Can I quickly? I think also what's really interesting with what Sunak has done over the last over 2023 is that it feels like a lot of the time the flagship policy was this kind of stop the boats type thing with Rwanda, sorry, and then it got kind of shot in the water, and then it's kind of no one really knows if they're going to carry it on or just leave it to just die on the side of the road type thing. But then bringing characters like getting rid of Braverman and then bringing in Cameron, it was like that was more of a shift towards like a centrist Conservative Party. But then again, like this anti-immigration policy is very kind of far right, which we're seeing all over the world. Like we saw it in the Netherlands, and we're seeing it in Argentina with Milei, who's literally mad. So it's like we don't. It seems like Sunak's isolating himself from everyone because the far right in the party is going to go, oh, that's too liberal, that's too soft. You're literally like socialist type thing, and then the centrists, kind of the shires as they call them, are going to be like, well, why are you talking all this kind of far right stuff? So I think it's a very good point, Theo, saying that it feels like the Tories are almost going to split themselves in half.
I think that's the big risk, and I've always said, the scenario where the Conservatives totally collapse is not the scenario where Labour get, 55% of the vote or something stupid. It's a scenario where Labour are on 40% of the vote, but the Conservative vote has split in half. And it's sort of just, that's the, the worst case. In many ways, Rishi Sunak's task in 2024, much more than remaining Prime Minister, is putting in a respectable showing and preventing the Conservative Party genuinely falling off a cliff, sort of from which it will not be able to sort of claw its way back. You know what? I'll go next. I'll take questions next, and then we'll do Sonny. So, who wants to ask me a question first? A prediction, as it were.
I'll go first.
Okay.
Lots of people. I don't know if you could say hyping up, but they've been kind of slightly getting behind the Lib Dems. Where do you think they're going to come in the whole standing, and do you see them becoming a third party and a genuine voice, or do you see them kind of SNP, Lib Dem, Farage's party all just taking little scraps all over the country, except for SNP always get the whole of Scotland?
Well, this is the thing. This is the interesting thing about 2024 is I don't think the SNP will get the whole of Scotland. 2024 even. I think Labour have at least a even chance of getting more seats than the SNP in Scotland in 2024. Yeah. It could also be underwhelming, but they're going to make gains. So simultaneously, the SNP's position as the third party will be made more precarious because they could be down to 30 seats, they could be down to 20 seats, God knows, they could be down to 15 seats. And at the same time, Labour building a big national mandate knocks out loads of Conservative seats. And then as the Conservative vote share drops in all these various seats, sort of as a consequence of a national swing, in seats where the Lib Dems are in second place, most of which are, the seats the Lib Dems contest, there's only a tiny fraction of Lib Dem target seats that Labour hold. It's all Tory holds, really. As the Tory vote share drops in those seats, tactical voting, recent by-elections, recent local elections indicates voters will go Lib Dem in seats where the Lib Dems are the challenger. So it would lead me to come to the conclusion that, contingent on Labour doing well and the Conservatives doing badly, both pretty, obvious predictions, the Lib Dems, the sky's the limit. 30 seats, easy. Could it be 40? Yes. 50, 60. It's always, people get very excited making predictions for the Lib Dems. I'd say 60 is too ambitious. But I think a combination of the SNP collapsing and the Lib Dems taking a load of seats off the Tories, as they did in 1997, and they don't even need more votes. They can get less votes and get way more seats as a consequence of how the Tories are doing relative to last time. I would say the chances of Ed Davey being sort of the leader of Britain's third party, much higher profile, 2 questions at PMQs, sort of the old Ian Blackford slot, as it were, are pretty damn high. Maybe a 75% chance.
God help us all.
So
That's pretty strong take, I have to say. I've got one thing I wanted to say was that if Sunak carries on splitting the party in half, which looks like he's not doing anything to try and change it, I think there could be a lot of kind of centre-left conservatives, kind of Rory Stewart's group of people, if you can picture him, moving to people like the.
I'd rather not picture Rory Stewart.
I would rather.
Sorry.
Sorry, mate. He's not the best looking guy.
Oh, come on. He's a fine looking man.
I think he's a lovely looking man. I like his.
Okay, we might have him on the pod one day. Genuinely, that's a possibility. So we should probably. Sorry, Rory.
Yeah.
He can take a joke. He really can.
Listen. Anyone who stood as the Remainer candidate in the 2019 leadership race clearly likes being humiliated. Okay. Look, let me put it this way. I don't think that the centre-left sort of Rory Stewart voter that you describe necessarily exists. I think they probably started voting either Lib Dem or Labour, if not in 2017, then definitely in 2019. Like, they're gone. They are... Yeah. It's a bit like when people say sort of non-Trump Republicans. It's like they're not Republicans anymore. They voted for Hillary Clinton, they voted for Joe Biden, they voted Democrat in the last 2 midterms. Like, they were Republican voters or they were conservative voters, but I think that kind of voter probably switched as a consequence of Brexit more than anything else. So I don't think Sunak needs to worry about them so much.
Fair enough.
Theo, hit me.
Who would you tip as your top front runner for any Tory leadership contest that could happen in 2024?
Rory Stewart.
Right. Okay. So it's a process of elimination thing, because you guys know I've been a big James Cleverly fan.
Yes, you've made that abundantly clear.
If you've seen, by the way, by fan I mean of his prospects. I don't mean I adore his, Cleverlyism. The political philosophy.
Isn't it funny how James Cleverly's constituency is Braintree? Just like it just matches too well.
I'd go through Braintree most days to London.
It sounds like a primary
Yeah.
school. It sounds like a really posh
clever Braintree. It just kind of matches up.
It does. Now, and he's a smart man. But and he's also
like
very
his glasses.
suave and smart. Anyway, Mr. Cleverly, I think, has probably Sunak's tanked his chances by making him Home Secretary. Because if you look at the recent spate of polling from Conservative Home, who are generally pretty accurate, in terms of popularity of members of the cabinet, he was one of the most popular, and he's jumped right down the leaderboard. And it's because he's being portrayed in the media as the liberal influence in the Home Office, and obviously anyone who's portrayed as the liberal influence in the Home Office is not going to get anywhere near the Conservative Party membership's pick for leader. So, sleeper candidate, James Cleverly, maybe he can turn it around. But by process of elimination, I'm going to say the single most likely individual to be the next leader is Kemi Badenoch.
Wow.
I think it's, untested. She's not really the kind of leader of the opposition you want if you're going to win an election in one cycle. She's kind of the Ed Miliband, or maybe even the Michael Foot of opposition leaders for the Conservatives. But she is strongly ideological. She has weaknesses, but she's in touch with where the base of the party is. She's certainly got much more likelihood of sort of her ideas taking hold nationally than a Liz Truss, because she does have some political ideas that are genuinely popular and sort of rooted in an understanding of working class voters. So I would say by process of elimination, she's on the right. She's not too on the right. If the Conservatives are totally wiped out, I saw one estimate that up to 40% of the Conservative Party in Parliament will be on what we now call the populist right. So I think she just needs that plus, another 10%. Easy. Kemi Badenoch, she'd crush anyone in the sort of membership race. She could probably even beat Suella. So Kemi Badenoch, leader of the opposition within the next 10 months. You heard it here first.
Wow.
Thoughts? Anyone got any thoughts on that?
It's
put a lot of money into Kemi Badenoch.
Oh, sorry, Theo, you go first.
No, carry on.
I was gonna say that it's funny how I just think Kemi Badenoch. Who's Kemi Badenoch? It took me a second, but as you were saying, it kind of I can see it. I can see it. I mean, she's been in the London Assembly, so she's.
Have you gone on the Wikipedia page, Sonny?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, don't know like that was just something that was just floating around in your head, just a fact you knew.
Oh, she's been in the London Assembly.
I can now tell you that she's been in Parliament since 2017, which is quite fresh for a lot of
yeah, that is quite fresh.
MPs. So, do you think that would? But do you not think that would be bad? Because I mean, you look like a lot of the people like I think Truss came in like 2010 or something, and a lot of them came in in 2010 or like 2005 or something. But not think that could negatively affect her chances.
It might do, but to be honest, she's the most popular with the membership. I don't know how many big hitters they're going to have left in Parliament. And also, by 2024, it's been a little while since 2017, did you say, or 2015?
Yeah, 2017.
That is green. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
I see a picture.
That's what 6 years. Yeah.
It's not long, and she's young as well. She's 43. I mean, maybe British politics needs that. I don't know, but I just think there are so many terrible candidates. She might be the least terrible one because I don't see any. I don't look at sort of the Tory. Basically, any of them that might have been any good have already been leader. So, I'm speaking in terms of political strategy and positioning for the Conservative Party, not personal preference. Big ally of Michael Gove. Well, she was anyway. There may have been a falling out. I see. I'm Googling things as well now. I just think she's probably. Think of it in terms of probabilities. She's not got like a 60% chance of being leader, but maybe everyone else, all the other candidates are at like a 20% chance and she's at like a 30% chance. So on my betting market in my brain, she's got the best odds, but it's not majority odds, it's plurality odds. Does that make sense?
Do you not think of Penny Mordaunt maybe making a stance?
I just think she is too calculating. And she is too... Believe it or not, the Conservative membership like what they perceive to be authenticity. And I think after the election, it's very much going to be a mode of like, who can bury Sunak first, basically. Like, Sunak did everything wrong. Yeah. We betrayed our true roots by, compromising in some way. And I think Kemi Badenoch is probably going to be able to do that without being so out there that sort of the MPs will stop her. And also, I could see Boris Johnson writing a column being like, I'm endorsing Kemi Badenoch for the leadership and stuff like that. And I can't see that with Penny Mordaunt. Do you know what I mean? I can see like the media, I can see the Telegraph getting behind her. I can see Boris Johnson being like, oh, I brought her up. I appointed her to her first ministerial position. I thought she was always great. And it like sort of everyone kind of getting a bit of the Kemi Badenoch glory and sort of all crowing in behind her. Sort of the Stop Suella candidate in a way. Because they don't really, a lot of people in the Conservative Party really don't want Suella Braverman.
Stop Suella. Yeah. That's a good name.
I mean, Penny Mordaunt could also be the Stop Suella candidate. But whereas I think Suella would probably crush Badenoch. I think that, have I said that the right? No. Have I said this?
Suella would crush Mordaunt, you mean?
Yeah, Suella would crush Mordaunt. Badenoch could probably actually stop Suella. That's the way I'm looking at it.
Very interesting. I see you really calculated that. So I'm very, very impressed, Toby.
Oh, thank you very much. Are we on to asking you questions now, Sonny?
Theo, what was your question? Oh, yes. I think we are.
Was Badenoch was your question, wasn't it, Theo? I think.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. We'll do this, then we'll do another round if we want to. All right. Maybe a quick fire round. Okay. Sonny. A lot is being said about the next election and about, a hung parliament, small Conservative majority, small Labour majority, big Labour majority. If you were to rank the outcomes in order of likelihood, right, I'll give you these outcomes. So you've got narrow Tory win, hung parliament, narrow Labour win, blowout Labour win. How would you rank those from most to least likely?
Wow. That's a very good question. I think the most likely will go. I would say slightly more than narrow Labour win. I think Labour will win.
So that's the most.
I think it. Sorry.
Sorry. So that's the most likely. You're saying.
Yeah, I think it's probably the most likely. I think that the Tories have a slightly uncanny ability to not, I wouldn't say kind of pull off miracles, but to be able to just about dig their heels in and survive. One thing that stops me is that I've talked to certain people, voters, people who are conservative. They're not kind of hardline far right conservative, but they're kind of like middle of the road conservative, and they're still saying, the whole thing that's gone on, I'm still backing them, and I kind of talk to more people, and they're less kind of like we have to get rid of them, and I do think that Labour just does have some sort of really unfortunate like curse or something, which means that they're not always fully trusted the way that the Conservatives are, which I do think is quite unfair. So I think it will probably go most likely Labour win, a reasonable Labour win. I don't think it's going to be like a 4-seat majority, but I don't think it's going to be like 200. And then probably I would say maybe some sort of hung parliament. But again, I think the hung parliament would probably be more likely to result in a Labour victory, as in like a coalition with the Lib Dems or something.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I don't think the Conservatives would survive a hung parliament. I think they would definitely try. I wouldn't see some sort of rainbow coalition coming together. I don't think there's enough parties to have a rainbow coalition, actually.
My hot take on this is if the Tories are anywhere below 326 seats, Keir Starmer runs a minority government. They have no margin for error.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot tighter than people probably expect. Mainly because if the Tories do carry on banging on about immigration, I think that they're going to collect a lot of the vote. And yeah, but then going on, I think then it's most likely a Conservative victory, as in, so like third most likely, like a narrow one. Yeah, and then probably a Labour, just landslide victory at the very bottom, I'd say.
So you're a Labour landslide skeptic, which is interesting actually, because I think me and Theo have probably been too bullish on that as an outcome in recent weeks. So it's good to have some counterbalance there.
Thank you.
Well, it is correct, but yeah, I guess you're right.
Theo, over to you. What would you like to ask our guru?
Our guru.
This political god that's on the podcast with us right now.
Oh God, I feel terrible. All I do is read the FT. No, I do a bit more than that, but yeah.
All right then. On that note, what effect do you expect economic recovery to have on politics in the next year?
Since
you read the FT every day.
Such a good question.
I haven't read it in a while, I'll be honest, but I'll give it my best
Okay,
shot.
I'll also
He
put this.
reads the one free article every day before they say you have to pay for it.
I'll put you. Yeah, exactly. I'll put it. It's cost of living crisis, guys. I'll put this. I'll put this to you, Sonny, as well, on top of Theo's question.
Oh God, you're gonna have to remind me afterwards. Then.
It's kind of the
Okay.
same thing. It's just obviously a lot of the talk is when the economy improves, the Conservatives will sort of magically recover. Sort of work that into your answer. Your thoughts on that hypothesis?
Okay. I so I think the kind of most recent budget. What do we call it? The autumn budget. Is that what we call it?
Autumn
October,
state.
autumn. Yeah, autumn statement. Sorry, yeah, I think budget. I think it kind of it was the Tories trying to pretend to be these like tax cutting, swashbuckling, liberals. Oh yeah, we're gonna chop it all up and we're gonna make everyone pay £4.50 and that's it. Which didn't really happen too much. I think what did they touch national insurance? It feels like ages ago now. But, I think that the Tories might slightly try and just throw everything at the spring budget. I think that there was some chatter inside Westminster that the Conservatives might just try and slash everything and anything to some degree, hoping that when they think that they'll probably, because I think most of the Conservative Party are probably now starting to accept the fact. I think a lot of people have, but I think the top people like are trying to not accept that they're going to most likely lose the next election. I think that they will potentially try and just slightly ruin the economy. So then when Labour come in, have to straight away start firefighting. So I could see a slight dip in the economy. I could see a bit of an economic some economic problems going on. But in the next year, I think we've got some big problems in the economy which we're not really focusing on with like productivity, just the economy growing generally. I think it's also tied in with the fact like our foreign policy around like Brexit and just deals have been a bit just lackluster. Um, so yeah, I don't think there's going to be much economic recovery in the next year because I think everyone's going to be preoccupied by the election, and I don't think the spring budget's going to do much for the economy overall. But Toby, your little question was I've completely forgotten.
Oh, it was basically this. I think just like, do you buy the idea that if living standards collapse a bit less slowly, wages outpace inflation, is that enough of a feel-good factor to save Rishi Sunak, or is that just going to blunt the Conservative defeat?
Well, this is okay. Actually, I've got an example, and I love this example. When Suella Braverman was Home Secretary, he went on the news because they were announcing record high numbers of police officers. And they said there is, I can't completely remember the stats, but I'm going to say it was like she said it's 33,000 more police officers on the street. This is record high numbers. And the presenter went, yeah, the thing is you slash 30,000 police jobs. You've actually only made 3,000 more police jobs since 2010. Which I think is a good example for the economy, in which you could say, yes, we've had record high this and that. It's like, yeah, because you slashed the budget so hard during austerity, or there was such an economic dip that you've actually only grown 2% or 3%, or you've only done this and you've only done that. So I think overall, if the Conservatives try and push some sort of we've made the economy better line, I think they've been in government for so long that there's so many tripwires that they could accidentally there's so many traps that they've almost set themselves that they could so easily fall on. But then again, some people will just if they hear economic growth, they'll go, oh, that's Conservatives, brilliant, I'll vote for them. It doesn't matter if it's 2.5% or if it's 50%. So yeah, I don't think they will, but I've seen crazier things. So, yeah.
Okay, I've got something that's going to put us all a little bit on the spot. And you guys can sort of do this flying by the seat of your pants, or we can pause the recording, but here's my idea. How about we all make our own exit poll? Put them all in this chat that we're calling from, and then sort of react to each other's. Like, how many seats gun to our head right now, how many seats Labour have, how many seats the Conservatives have, Lib Dem, SNP, Reform, Green. Just like our own.
So many numbers. I don't know if I'll be able to do that. Yeah, all right. I think that'll be fun. Yeah. Should we pause it?
Let's pause it.
I'm going to need a few minutes.
Let's pause it. It's been about 10 minutes, and we're back, and we've got our predictions.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do a little countdown. We're all going to put them. You're going to hear our verbal reactions. And then, do you each want to read yours, or do you want me to just, announce all yours in my narrator voice?
Go ahead.
I'll
go
read
ahead,
mine.
Toby. Oh, okay.
Oh, no, you go ahead then. Toby,
Okay.
go ahead.
Peer pressure. All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Oh.
Ooh.
Ooh. Oh. Theo, our predictions are very similar.
Remarkably close.
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
I
We're
thought-
within 10 seats of each other.
It's as
apart
though
from Green.
we're either
I
very...
feel completely left out on my own.
Hang on, let's see what you've done. Oh, okay. No,
2,
yours
2,
is,
3.
yours is
Oh.
respectable. Like, if I saw any of these... I thought someone was going to take the piss. If I saw any of these as the exit poll, I'd believe it. All right. I put 360 seats for Labour. I was estimating within 10. It won't obviously be exactly 360. 360 Labour, 190 Conservative, 40 Lib Dem, 20 SNP, 0 Reform, 0 Green. Theo has put 192 for the Conservatives, 370 for Labour. It's really scarily similar to my prediction. 25 for the SNP, 16 for Reform, who you've just put as an angry emoji, 7 for the Greens, and 30 for the Lib Dems plus Northern Ireland, which probably equates to very few seats for the Lib Dems. And then we've got
Yes.
Sonny's. Are you bearish on the prospects of the Lib Dems, Theo?
Yes, for sure.
Oh wow!
I don't think they're gonna do anything. I don't think they can do anything super impressive. You know, I don't think. I think a lot of people who might have thought of their place in the Lib Dems may be warming up to Keir Starmer's brand.
Well, that has been the story of the last few years, I suppose. There was at one point when he was very unpopular with the Labour base. Lib Dem voters preferred Keir Starmer to Labour voters. They liked him more, which I found very funny. There was an interesting poll around that time. Labour, 340 for Sonny. Conservatives, 223. Liberal Democrats, 50. SNP, 15. Reform, 10. Green, 2. Guys, how are you guys finding a route for Reform to get 15 to 20 seats?
I think
the proportional representation, not
Reforms.
proportional. Sorry, carry on.
Sorry, I was going to say I think lots of the what's kind of the marginalised groups are going to go Reform. I think a lot of them are going to be kind of sick of the Conservatives in some ways.
They may well do, but if you put sort of modelling of a national swing, unless it's concentrated in certain seats, Reform could get 20% of the vote and they wouldn't get a single seat.
Yeah, no, that was the whole thing with UKIP
Exactly.
for so many years. But I do think that I don't know. I think that they might be able to or something, because I think Farage is in some ways more and least popular than ever. It feels like.
You think they might be able to geographically concentrate their vote?
Yeah, definitely. I think votes from Canvey Island, and the north, the north. I think they might win over a few more than we think. I think I kind of hope, maybe not so much for Reform, but I kind of think and slightly hope this might be the year of kind of the smaller parties having more of a say.
Well, considering we've all predicted a Labour majority, much like under the Conservative majority, the smaller parties will be ignored. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
As is the way. Keir Starmer will crush the smaller parties just as Rishi Sunak, Boris Johnson and Liz Truss did. Anyway, I think that's about it. I'm very happy with our predictions. We need to listen to this podcast after the election, I think.
We should do a live re-listen right up to when the exit poll is, and then react to the exit poll live on there after hearing our predictions again.
We should also
honestly, that I think it's one time where I'm actually quite excited to watch the election. I watched it for the first time in 2019, and it was a
Oh,
bit
that was a lot
rough.
of fun. You can't deny that.
That
Was
was a
It was
fun.
a
fun
lot
night.
of fun.
I texted you two like you were right, I was wrong, because my prediction was different. And
Yeah.
Yeah, yours was like Corbyn 500 seats.
no, it wasn't. Do you know what my actual prediction was?
What?
Hasn't aged well. Well, what do you think? I was thinking Conservatives on about 300 seats, Labour on about 270. So I thought it would be a hung parliament, Conservatives' largest party.
That was quite possible. I do remember the exit poll being quite a shocker, honestly. Like, I remember just not quite believing Boris Johnson his government would score that highly, but then it just appeared.
The
The
lesson I
number.
took from that was trust the polls, because all the media had been like, oh, it might be a hung parliament, Jeremy Corbyn might be prime minister, but then like the polls were like,
Yeah.
no, and the polls were right.
Yeah, there was a certain extent of doing that to try and stir up anti-Corbyn votes. I mean, I know a lot of people who
that's
essentially
true.
came out of political isolation to vote against Corbyn. Like, it was a very potent force.
Yeah, I know some diehard Remainers who were like, we had to vote for Boris to stop Jeremy Corbyn.
Yeah.
So that was very much a thing. And then
No, yeah, I know someone who registered to vote in their mid-40s for the first time to vote against Corbyn.
did they work for like Goldman Sachs or something, Theo?
Oh, no, nothing like that. I think it was Deutsche Bank.
Brilliant.
But I think 2024 will be again the kind of year of elections, because I mean we're also looking forward to the US of A.
Oh, we are.
What could be I mean, honestly, I don't think it will happen. I don't think the Conservatives will win, but if they do, and especially on a far right kind of agenda, and then I mean, the more and more I talk to people about it, the more and more they think that Trump is going to be back, which is going to be quite upsetting in some ways.
That's something to look forward to in the new year, I guess. Yeah.
We could do a little US segment, perhaps.
Do you think, you know what? I'll put this. Do you think this podcast needs that? Because we can. I mean, I write and read about American politics so much. Brimming.
Yeah, well,
I don't
we
know that
wouldn't want
much.
to put that to
I
waste.
would love to learn though.
I'm brimming with hot takes. All right, quick fire. Who's more likely to win in 2024, Trump or Biden? Theo.
George Santos. I'm kidding. I think
Washington's
Biden
teeth.
will scrape by with
Biden.
a possibly lower popular vote than Trump,
Okay.
who will get the nomination, by the way.
Right, Sonny, Trump or Biden? Who's got the edge?
I'm gonna say Biden just because I don't know how split the Republicans are. 'Cause there's a lot of now Republicans, a lot of senators that are now kind of jostling for being the elect, which might not bode well for the whole of the Republican Party. So I'm going to say Biden. I'm also slightly hoping.
I'm on team Theo. Biden by the very skin of his aging teeth.
Yeah, I mean, there's pretty much there's a huge Trump base in the country, and basically they're so disconnected from what's going on with politicians. You know, these politicians are all rallying against Trump, and he's still sucking up like 85% of the Republican vote. Like, you know, they're so disconnected from Washington D.C.
You're completely right.
There's millions of them ready to go.
They don't understand how popular he is in the country.
Ready. These people, they're ready to vote in another fraudulent election.
Yeah, you're right. No, but seriously, if you accept that it was fraud, right? Imagine you're a Republican. Why do they think it won't be this? It's just like, I don't get it.
Well, I'll go vote anyway, but this is all completely fraud.
Yeah, it's like, it's got pick one. Pick one, sis.
Oh, no, it was Democratic. No, Trump won democratically, but it was all a fraud, and they tried to stop him, and he won anyway.
Yeah. I have there's someone in one of my politics classes who is convinced that Trump won in 2016 through fraud. You can imagine that's an interesting dynamic.
Well, wasn't the Russians involved in 2016 election?
Oh yeah, just a little bit.
That's the liberal
Just a dabble.
That's the liberal equivalent of QAnon for me. I'm not buying it. Like statistically, it would be like compared to the millions and millions and millions, billions of advertising paid for by both parties. it's like it wouldn't be enough to tip it.
A couple Russian memes are not going to significantly impact a US federal election.
No, but that's what people. That's what people will claim that though. People literally go Russian memes that are like affected.
I think people tend to completely overestimate the influence of dark force, or not dark forces, but things that are ominous. They just immediately assume that they have huge influence if someone ominous is trying to interfere with something.
There'll be something stupid in 2024. It'll be like, Rishi Sunak's defeat was so big because like he stumbled like walking into a building a day before polling day. It's like no one's gonna vote differently because of like a little. You know what I mean? A little thing.
Yeah, I bet there'll be a huge number of people on the losing side saying my side only lost because of fake AI videos of our candidate saying stupid stuff. Like that's going to be huge. The amount of fake videos that are going to be circulating before the election.
We lost because
candidates.
There will, I guarantee, after the exit poll, I don't know who it will be, James Cleverly or someone, sort of in the position John McDonnell was in 2019. Like Andrew Neil turns, Mr. Cleverly. Your party's collapsed. And he'll say something like, well, it's very sad that Keir Starmer deceived the British public. It'll be something like that, right? Immediately. That'll be the immediate reaction. Anyway. So what do you think, guys? First podcast of the new year. Do we take a little look at the Republican primary and what's going on?
Sure.
I think so.
I mean, I can summarize it for you in 5 seconds.
Yeah, Trump's going to win everywhere. But
Trump's going to win, and he's got his little dummy there, Vivek Ramaswamy, and everyone else is flailing around hopelessly. It's pretty much it.
Right, next podcast will be 75% what's going on here and 25% America. In the next week, we've got the Republican primary heating up, but over here, Keir Starmer's doing a set-piece speech to kick off the new year, positioning himself, as it says in my Sunday Times, the candidate of change. Reform UK are doing a press conference kicking off the election, promising to bury the Conservatives. And Rishi Sunak is apparently going to go to lots of events where he shakes hands with the public and appears dynamic.
And makes a lot of funny blunders that will go viral.
And that is
being a coke addict.
The first.
I'm a total coke addict.
I'm a total coke addict.
If you know, you know. And that's going to be the first week of 2024. Lads, see you next week.
Yes, thank you so much.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas.